Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we'll go from the Mojoverse to Earth 616 to the blue area of the moon in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the Uncanny Chris.
I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
And I'm watching Dune on my phone.
Oh, that was good. Alliance Assemble. Travis with the shade already.
It just came to me just seconds before the show started.
I told my wife if we end up watching Dune, I'm seeing it at HBO Max. I'm not going theatrically.
I'm with you on that team, Brent.
No, you're not. You don't have HBO Max.
Yeah, I can never get HBO Max.
Oh,
I watch
Warner
Titans
Brothers.
every week.
Looking strong there, Warner Brothers. Looking strong. All right. Yeah. So we are at volume 68. So we're getting close to the big 7-0. So we got a lot to talk about, but we got a guest rejoining us after a week break due to sickness. Travis, how you doing, buddy?
A lot better, Chris. A lot better. I was in rough shape. You know yourself, because we recorded the Rick and Morty finale, and I must have hit the mute button at least 20 times, coughing up a storm.
Yes.
And it was bad. I thought I was actually recovered when I wrote you Thursday morning. Pretty excited. I was like, I can't wait for tonight. And by 12 o'clock, in noon, I was gone. So I knew. So it was nice to be back. I missed last week, which was a good episode, but ready to talk about what I think is a really good episode as well this week.
Yeah, and S-Bubs is gonna, watching Dune in the bathtub. Just make sure to be safe with that. We don't want you getting electrocuted, S-Bubs. We want to be a little bit safe with that as well.
That's such a good comment from S-Bubs. If you know the bathtub thing, that's such. Well done, sir.
Yes, well done. Brent, how are you doing this week?
I am good. I can't complain. I got a new What If. I got an Apple event this week. All my fandoms are just getting touched this week.
Exactly. We both got an Apple event that we're gonna have to be talking about that much later in the show, if you catch my drift.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we got week's been good to me. Just got some pretty interesting news. I'll talk to y'all about it off air later, but unexpected but possibly good news. So, but made the week more interesting. So, but
excellent.
Yeah, so all in all, good week. And so let us get our network plugs out of the way, because we got a lot to talk about. So as always, we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network with 8 shows coming at you 6 days a week. We've got my show, World's Finest True Believers, alternating bi-weekly on Mondays with Ranger Alliance. This week, I dropped a new episode with our network-in-chief, our headmaster at that point, Travis Nell. We looked at All New Wolverine, Volume 1, The Four Sisters, the beginning of Tom Taylor's much-acclaimed run with that. So check it out. It was a great conversation with him. And so Ranger Alliance will be back next week with a new episode, so check that out. On Tuesdays, we got DC Alliance. On Wednesdays, we got Superhero Discussions. On Thursdays, we got Star Wars Alliance, alternating bi-weekly with a walk through the multiverse. And today dropped a new episode of Walk Through the Multiverse, talking with some news. I believe Clay joined Joe today with that. And also a discussion about the new series, Why the Last Man, that dropped on Hulu, the first, I believe, 3 episodes at that point. So I'm a huge fan of that series. So that is on my to-do list this weekend to watch. I'm excited about that. And also to say something about Star Wars Alliance, they just got their own feed, their own separate feed. So make sure, if you're a fan of that, give that a look up on your podcatcher of choice and download that separate feed. They're getting ready to some new stuff coming up, and getting ready for the Book of Boba. And also, I believe next week a Star Wars Visions comes out, so they will be covering that. That comes out on Disney Plus next week, so I'm very excited about that. And then our show drops on audio on Fridays, and then Sundays bi-weekly is Slice of Film. DC Alliance goes live on Monday nights on the Geekverse channel, and the show, if you're watching it now, obviously we go live on the Geekverse YouTube channel on Thursday nights. We also have a Patreon. We want to thank our patrons for their support. We can't do this without you. We've got 2 tiers. We got a $1 tier. So if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, that $1 tier is our tip jar, saying we're doing a good job. And then we've got our $5 tier with our ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and our exclusive Patreon episodes. And with Travis being here, what are we hoping is going to drop next week, Travis?
The Last Ronin, Chris, that I keep plugging over and over again. But myself and Joe recorded something for patrons a couple days ago.
That dropped today.
So look for that as well.
Yes, I believe you looked at your reactions to 2. I wouldn't call you, noobs when it comes to the Matrix, but just the you've seen the Matrix, the first one, many times, and you've seen the other ones, but you wouldn't call yourselves the end all be all of Matrix fans.
No, not at all. And we were both going in hoping the other one was one of those expert fans. So when we both talked just before we started, we were like, oh God, anyone who's a super fan of Matrix may hate us. But hopefully they'll laugh instead, because we had a good laugh reviewing.
I got some good chuckles. I definitely got some good chuckles. But so yeah, check that out. And again, join us and you get that $5 tier. You get those exclusive episodes. So hopefully Last Run will drop this week. And so very shortly, probably within the next week or so, you, me, Joe, and Clay will be recording for that 4th issue. If you can't join us on Patreon, totally understand. And but if you can do 30 and 90 seconds, rate and review our solo feed, Marvel Alliance, give us that 5-star review, or also the Geek Ultimate Alliance feed, give us that 5-star review. We really appreciate it. It helps other people discover our podcast, so we appreciate that. And as always, let us plug our official sponsor, and that is organicpricebooks.com. I'm premiering right now. The Marvel solicits have dropped the new ones for the month, for this month. At that point, it's a big month for some omnibuses that are coming up that just dropped. So we've got Star Wars by Jason Aaron, the beginning of his acclaimed run of this. It is being reprinted with 3 covers. These 2 direct market you can only get from places like organicpricebooks.com. So check that out. The acclaimed Hickvengers, Jonathan Hickman's run, the first volume of it is being reprinted. That book has been out of print for a long time. It has gone for some big bucks. It is now being reprinted with 2 covers.
Did you say the Hickvengers?
That is what we call it, Hickvengers.
Who's we? Who's we?
I do, but other people do.
I don't condone this.
You don't condone that?
I don't condone this.
Then we've got Ta-Nehisi Coates' claimed run on Black Panther is being, for the first time, collected in Omni format, 2 covers with that. And for the very first time ever collected in a technical omnibus format, The Fall of the Mutants X-Men is for the first time being collected in Omni format. It was originally done as a oversized hardcover, but now it is being properly collected after many, many years never happening. So check that out. But also, if you do decide to purchase anything with that, use that code MarvelGUA at checkout. You get $2 off every single order. We appreciate Organic Price Books for being our official sponsor, and thank you all for giving them their patronage. So, and just to plug them one more time, this came in the mail. Got this order in. Spider-Man, Untitled Spider-Man by Todd McFarlane. That has just come out.
That's an iconic cover. I've always liked that cover.
It is. Not the issue. The very first issue of the run was the best-selling comic of all time until another adjectiveless title took it, and that would be X-Men by Jim Lee and Chris Claremont. So, I
mean, if you're going to lose the top-selling title of all time, that's a good one to lose to.
It is. It's just funny that it's another adjectiveless when before it wasn't. So, but all right. All these plugs, everything out there, all the paperwork is done. Let us get into What If Episode 6. What if Killmonger saved Tony Stark? So this episode, I believe, is our first kind of 2-in-1 what ifs, in a sense of we've had 2 movies being what ifed in this, in the sense of Iron Man 1 and Black Panther.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I guess you could make a maybe make a debate for the T'Challa as Star-Lord episode, kind of mixing a couple there.
Yeah.
But this feels like the strongest one for sure, because you very much got Iron Man 1 stuff and you very much got Black Panther stuff right out of the gate, because I've seen some people kind of complaining about it. I have 0 voice cast complaints this week. I thought all of them were fine. Obviously, they weren't all the originals, but I thought they were all fine. I thought the guy playing Tony Stark, Mick Winger, I believe his name was, totally cool there. I have no problems with him. Of course, I thought Michael B. Jordan did a great job as Killmonger. I have no complaints about the voice cast this week, and I know we've talked about that a bit.
Yeah, I think this was the one that had the most returning members of the cast of the original team coming back, if I'm not mistaken.
Even that, I got to because I'll jump on Brent's point there, because I even wrote this down. I want to shout out Kif Vandal Hoovel and Michael Patrick McGill. Michael Patrick McGill was Senator Ross, General Ross, and Kif was Obadiah Stane. Both of those people were pretty as close as you can get to sounding like the actors without actually having the actors there. They were great, especially I thought I was really surprised when I went back and checked that Ross wasn't actually Ross, because he sounded so much like him.
Yes, he did.
It was scary. I actually went back and I was shocked.
And Shuri was a different voice as well, and then Pepper Potts was a different, but Happy Hogan was the same. T'Challa, T'Chaka, Queen Ramonda, or the General in this case. Okoye was in it. Claw, of course. Rhodey, like Paul Bettany as Jarvis, and they even got Leslie Bibb, who is the reporter in Iron Man 1, to come back.
And this isn't her first appearance on Lift. So like I said, I think by numbers, this is the most returning MCU actors portraying themselves at that point. But also, it was interesting in the sense of the idea of how well, even though it's like 2 combo episodes, how well both this fit together. It flowed very well in a sense. It didn't look like it was forced in. And like you're right, I don't have any major complaints of the voice. I think the voice of Iron Man, he made his return. This is also a legacy one that he has also portrayed. I can't remember his name. Maybe one of you can have it on there, but he has also voiced Iron Man for animated series in Marvel's past.
Avengers Assemble.
There you go.
Yep.
So all around, but yeah, it's just high level thoughts, non-spoiler thoughts outside of the voice cast before we get into kind of breaking it down.
I really enjoyed this one. I know for some reason I've seen this episode just kind of taking some heat, and I kind of questioned, did we watch the same one? I mean, I really thought it was a good one. I'll be honest and say this wasn't necessarily the episode I was like the most hyped for. I knew it was coming. Killmonger saves Tony Stark. Wasn't necessarily the one I was like the most excited for compared to some others, but I really enjoyed it. And it was great to have Michael B. Jordan back as Killmonger, to have just to get another taste of his character, to see another side of the way he does things. And I honestly, it's like, I enjoyed this episode. It's not my number one, but it's definitely in the top half. It's definitely higher up than several others.
Yeah, S-Pub saying Andy Serkis must have been a ton of fun. Oh yeah, he sounds exactly like he was falling right back into it. But what did you think, Travis? What's your kind of high level thoughts?
I agree with Brent. I don't understand. I didn't see as much hate. Like I said, I think I have more people blocked than the rest of the network, but I didn't see the hate, but I don't understand it. This was in my like top echelon of episodes. It's probably at the bottom part of it, but it's still really enjoyable. Like Brent said about Michael B. Jordan, I just love him. Chadwick Boseman, I just gotta say, there's a couple moments there that when he's the Panther, it comes out as the Panther, and like the Angela Bassett has a couple moments that are like basically tributes to him, and it's fantastic. And I wasn't gonna think I was gonna get emotional at all, or like it was gonna hit, but it's a couple of those, especially when he was transformed from the Panther to himself, and with the words that he spoke, it was great. And we got a lot of great action and some twists on some like iconic scenes we've gotten throughout the MCU. And one other thing we got, I think this is the most I've seen Tony drink in the MCU continuously. He did not put down his drink. and it really shows what being a superhero really did for his life compared to what it could have been.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, I can echo it. I did really enjoy this. I think, and Travis and I kind of talked about it, I think the one consistent thing I said, but I have a comeback to it, is that how quickly things were moving in it, almost to the extent, I think one of the constant complaints about this episode is like it seemed very fast how certain things are. But again, if this is a 30-minute-esque show, you're going to have to move some things along at that point. But I really liked what I heard on Phase Zero this week when they said like this legitimately could have been 3 separate episodes if they really wanted to flesh each kind of segment of it out. It totally agreed at that point. But again, the concept of what if in the comics form is a single one-off. But as I still think they did a good job of moving things along, because again, yeah, we would like to see more things fleshed out, but as we've seen, and we'll make reference to it at the end of this episode, we know from the trailer there are certain scenes we have not seen yet that are going to say this will continue this season. This is not the end of this particular episode.
I think at this point in the series as a whole, I would almost say I feel like I understand the criticisms of people who say like it feels like they're moving lightning fast through it. Like we had a really, really cool, super brief like retelling of the Iron Man and the Sacred Timeline, right? Like the Prime Timeline. We got to see the iconic Avenger shot in animation. We got to see his snap, the snap that he did. I am Iron Man. Really cool moments. And then we circled all the way back to the beginning, and it felt like we were flying. And I agree with that. But honestly, I kind of have that. I don't know if complaint's the right word, so I'm just going to say observation about the whole series. I have felt like nearly every episode has moved at a lightning pace. And several times I have thought they needed 5 more minutes, 6 more minutes so they could wrap up the story a bit more, because this one does kind of end at a weird cliffhanger-y spot, like last week's did, like a couple others have done. I think that is a fair criticism to have. I don't necessarily think that these all should have been turned into 90-minute movies or something like that. I mean, sure, I'd have been game for it, but I do feel like they maybe could have used a few more minutes to flesh them out.
Yeah, as Pub saying, my most anticipated episode, not counting the finale, is Tony Stark on Sakaar. Yep, that might be upcoming. So
well, there's a season 2, and I know they said that it could be a lot from Phase 4, but we can get some episodes exploring other things that we still have in this season. Like Brent said, there's been a few episodes, and I think that's a good thing, that I don't want these episodes to end. I want them to continue on with the story that they're telling. So I don't think that's a problem. I know some people are complaining about that, but I think it just gives them, because you got to remember, I don't know if they knew that there was going to be a second season of this. So maybe they were kind of being like, if we come back, if this is a hit, we can come back to some of these and keep telling the stories. Because it would be pretty interesting to see more of the zombies, more of where the original Avenger lineup minus Cap was taken out. What kind of new Avenger lineup would they have? And the same thing here. I would love to see a Pepper Potts Shuri team up. So I've just loved the fact that they're all open.
Hold that thought. You're probably going to get it sooner than you realize.
Yeah.
But let's get into the episode where, basically those first couple of minutes is a frame for frame Iron Man 1. It's quite interesting to see and how much care to detail they have for what was on film to bring it to animation. I think the only thing that was different was the type of phone. The only thing I noticed was the type of phone Tony used was the only real thing that was different at that point until Killmonger made his appearance.
Yeah, the peace sign, please, no gang signs. No, just kidding, throw it out. Like that scene, yes, right out of Iron Man 1. And they did a really great retelling of it.
Did they have that same gigantic ass camera when he was, or I thought it was more like a phone or something, but it's been a little while since I've seen the original Iron Man, because Woody Holiday was looked like a toy camera. I know it was animation, but it looked little out of place to me. It was kind of funny.
Yeah. But the idea of Killmonger grabbing the bomb at that point, throws it, and therefore we get our beginning of our variant that no shrapnel in the chest, no Iron Man occurs. Even his whole idea of I always enjoy seeing, like you said, Brent, seeing the animation version of the Prime timeline. That was really cool. But how quickly this altered Tony's thing from a press conference saying, like, I want to stop getting into the arms business. My stuff was killing people. Instead, he goes, I'm going to build bigger. We're going to build badder at that point. And just how that one change, it completely all doesn't change his point of view. In fact, it makes it more hardened.
He didn't go through his crucible. Like anyone who watched this show in the second season, there was a
for those that can't see, he is holding an arrow.
But if you go through this crucible and you either come through the other side, a better person, a changed person, or you just stay in the despair and just that's where you live. And here, Tony does not change. He just continues to get worse and worse. We saw it in the first Iron Man. Before that happened, he wasn't the greatest guy. And
no,
he doesn't go on any kind of changing path. So it's pretty easy to see how he gets where he is, but it's nice just to even look at that and be like, okay, you need to go through this, what you went through to come out a better person, or you will not make an Iron Man suit. You won't think about other people like he does. We need to make bigger weapons. It was pretty cool.
S-Bub saying, what if Tony Stark never found the box of scraps?
I mean, he jokes, but yeah, because he was in a cave. He was with Yinsen. Travis is right. The Crucible. Like, Yinsen had this positive effect on him, and Tony having to fight for his life. There's a line later where I don't remember the exact quote, but basically Killmonger says, like, you would never lift up your finger to do anything real. You wouldn't get your hands dirty is effectively what he's saying. Iron Man 1, he had to get his hands dirty to stay alive. And he didn't go through that. So he had no reason to begin to go down that pathway to change.
What did you all think about, when they had that press conference, the turn of Killmonger, revealing and exposing Obadiah Stane's plan at that point? I mean, this episode always made me question a little bit, was Killmonger good? I mean, there was an obviously moment where we see his true colors at that point, but that was one of those moments saying, are we going to see full hero Killmonger? Is this where they're going with it?
Not for me, because of the looks that Pepper and Happy were giving him. I was like, because they're like, something's up. So that kind of kept me pause instead of full on believing. Because Chris, when he did save him initially, I did think that, because they cut out after them walking hand in hand. And I thought, like, are we going to get them partnering to do stuff like good for the world? And no, we quickly find out otherwise.
Going into this week, I thought Killmonger was going to be a good guy. I thought part of it was going to be where Tony didn't have the positive influences in his life that Killmonger maybe did have some in his, and it was going to go a different path. And clearly I was wrong. And for me, like, that first moment was like when he's like, well, no, I knew that Tony Stark was going to be assassinated and that Obadiah Stane was behind it, and I brought receipts. And like the way he said he brought receipts, which one is just funny because that's very much a relatively recent term, but the way he just said it, I was like, he's a little too excited. Like that's for me where I kind of started questioning his motives.
And especially where Tony's like, immediately he saved my life. Okay, he's gonna be head of security. Well, we know in the Prime timeline, in the Sacred timeline, it's Happy, and he even calls that out. And then later on, he puts Killmonger as the COO. It's like, oh my gosh, he's barely met this person. How? And Pepper doesn't take too much of pleasure in that, hearing that at that point. Now, people might forget, and it's still how Eric Killmonger is graduated at MIT at 19 years old. He is a certifiable genius, again. And so we don't know, obviously. These are kind of things like conversations that Tony might have had over seeing how smart he was, and more than, just a guy in the military, not some dumb grunt, in other words. So, but he's, again, this whole idea of moving it very quickly along.
Sure. And, around that time, like talking about like Pepper had her concerns, Rhodey, maybe not concerns, but was talking to her about him. One thing I kind of liked, sort of like when we saw Mark Ruffalo in the Incredible Hulk timeline, this was Don Cheadle in the Terrence Howard timeline of Iron Man 1. And that was kind of cool to see.
It was really fun
next
to see
time, baby.
all those
next
what
time.
all those "What if Terrence Howard secured the bag"
Yeah.
posters. Oh man!
The one
One other
episode
thing,
we'll never
Chris,
get.
One other thing, you guys were talking about Killmonger bringing receipts and not trusting that. There's one person on the network that loves to bring receipts. That are you saying that if you bring receipts, you can't trust that person? Because
No, I'm not
no,
saying that.
don't be saying that.
I'm saying the way Killmonger, the giddiness that Killmonger had with it, like he's very opportunistic, and it's like he was all over that, and like this was the first chance he had to just keep moving in his good graces. And of course, he sort of mentions later, he's like, oh, I had my mech robot, anime inspired mech robot thing, and I just couldn't crack it. Oh no, what am I gonna do? Oh, let me just plant it in front of the super genius who can help make it work.
The Emmy nominated actor guest for best guest appearance, Don Cheadle. Yeah, it's interesting in the fact that how much especially when Killmonger is using Howard Stark's line, peace meaning having the bigger stick than the other guy. That shows that he's been studying Tony for a while. To know that quote off the top of his head at that point, he's been studying Tony. He's also hiding his own motivations to infiltrate Wakanda instead of being out there, instead of being like where it was in Black Panther, just hiding it where he was in what his true motivations are. But the whole inspiration to build the drone army is very much in how they're building it at that point, is very much kind of like him and Yinsing in the cave, them building it together. Also, we get the drones kind of like what Vonko did in Iron Man 2.
Yeah, and a lot of people compare those drones to like the Hammer drones.
Yep, Hammer drones. But Killmonger capitalizes on one of Tony's biggest weaknesses. He can't resist the opportunity to tinker.
Absolutely. And because of that, it's like, oh, they needed a power source. Well, he's got vibranium. They could prove that it works because he's got his little vibranium ring. Suddenly they need to get more, and that brings in Claw. And a very, very similar role that we saw him doing in the Black Panther movie, and to a lesser extent, Age of Ultron.
Mm-hmm. The other point to that too, you guys, I really found that it reminded me just of Volko and Justin Hammer in terms of Tony.
Vonko,
sorry. Yeah. And Tony is pretty much not that far off of what Justin Hammer was like in the movie we saw. Like, he's not that much of a better person than Justin Hammer was in Iron Man 2. Maybe a little bit better, but not that much. He sends Rhodey in to get the vibranium, so he's not. I don't think he's that great of a person, and still Killmonger one-ups and like uses him for his tech, just like Justin Hammer got used in the second movie.
How about Tony dismissing the idea of a miniaturized arc reactor?
Just tossing it away like it was a lightsaber or something.
One thing I saw from a former guest on the show, Ryan Airy, he hosts a lot of videos on Screen Crush. He brought up an idea, and I never really thought about this. You go back to Iron Man 2 and the idea of him creating a new element in order to solve his, the poisoning of the arc reactor at that point. A theory that he proposed at that point, because it never was really named, because in the how the Iron Man suit evolves over time, did he basically create a synthetic vibranium? Because of how, if you also look at he pointed out in the sense of how later on the Iron Man armor becomes basically kind of nanite, kind of melds over, and it's very similar to how Black Panther's costume and / armor kind of melds around him at that point. I thought that was an interesting theory, that they might have had an idea at that point, but it never, I wouldn't say retcon, but they never really acknowledge any further.
I think it's a good question. It's not something I had considered or thought of, but it kind of, I definitely see where the logic is.
Mm-hmm.
Same. I never thought about it, but if you really think hard, kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting to bring up, to think about. But you bring up a good point in the sense of we kind of meld into a little bit of Age of Ultron with, Rhodey going in there to make a deal with the infamous Ulysses Claw. And, that was quite an interesting scene.
shades of Black Panther as well. The first time you see him in his own solo movie, I got vibes of that from this as well, where he's taking out guard and you can't see him anywhere that he's moving. That was great, and I also thought the little upgrade on the tech that we saw in the first Iron Man, just those little subtle touches you wouldn't really notice unless you looked at the neck of both Rhodey and T'Challa. So I just love those little touches that they're doing here. That just if you watch the MCU, it's just little cherries on top.
I really enjoyed seeing T'Challa as Black Panther again, and this felt like the closest to the Black Panther we got in the main timeline so far. The Zombie one obviously was very different. Star-Lord one was even more radically different. That this felt like the closest to it. Really, really cool moment to see him have that just great action scene. I mean, this episode had several really good action scenes. Of course, he ends up falling to Killmonger, who takes a very different path, a very different way than what he tried in the Black Panther movie. But even that, just seeing them briefly share the screen together again was just a treat.
It was, especially, going down the same path of already using and working with Claw to get this down. But I find it interesting that Killmonger wants to free all Africans around the world, but he kills 2 black men to do it. And what that says to me is that he is really not fully committed to the spirit of his cause as much as he is about executing his revenge and gaining power.
Well, I don't know if I'd agree with that, because to me, he would have seen them as an obstacle. He would have seen them as in his way to achieve his goals, especially with the way Rhodes said to fix the system, you have to be a part of it. He disagrees with that. So at that point, to him, Rhodes is no different than anyone else.
Not only that, you would think, if he's thinking that way, Chris, his ultimate goal would be vengeance, and he would kill T'Chaka at some point.
He might still.
He might, but we got more of, I want to be part of this village, this tribe kind of deal.
Yeah, no, I it was more of an idea. It just kind of struck me as what his plan is. You're both right. They stand in his way, but it was just so quickly he takes him down. That kind of tried to rub me a wrong way, just in the sense of, again, it's the quickness of this. They got to take him out. Again, it was just something I had thought about, saying, I don't know.
Well, that scene would be its own episode if you could really do this right. Like that whole, you could spread that out, make it more tense. You could really play on that if you had a full season of just this world. But
and to the point, someone could say back to me, and again, this was just a point of discussion at that point as well. He does the same thing with Black Panther. He tries to take out T'Challa and things like that. So I said, yeah, you're right at that point. But I found it just interesting seeing they just happen to be 2 black men that he takes out. The imagery just kind of struck me the second time I watched the episode. But before we continue on, let's take our first ad break. So listeners, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they could be a bit loud. So I'm going to give you that 3 count to turn that volume down before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right, so we've lost 2 very big members of the MCU, and just seeing those caskets, I did find out later that T'Challa's casket in Wakanda says Wakanda forever.
Yeah, pretty nice little touch there. Just MCU being the MCU.
So
yeah. So what did you think about him going into Wakanda and getting into T'Chaka's good graces, and sure, it took a little more winning over, but basically working his way right into the same way he tried in the movie?
I loved it, Brent, because I didn't know how he was, if things were going to change. It was so tense the entire time, even to the very end of when we saw Killmonger, because I thought he could literally turn around and stab T'Chaka at any point. So I was just waiting, wondering. I was like, is he just going to enact vengeance, or is there a bigger plan here? And we obviously see that there is. But I just loved how he did this. He somewhat similar to Black Panther, but still a little different in its own right, just to keep me on edge. That's all.
He literally creates a false flag event. Yeah, like the whole idea of the drone shutting down, and then he reactivates him, and then he is out there fighting amongst that. they're not going to stop him because he's programmed in a sense they're not going to kill him. So he has absolutely nothing but to showcase how he's able to save everyone and come after them.
Did they say that it wouldn't kill him? I'm really curious. Or did he just put it in there? That's one thing I was wondering while I was watching. I was like, are they programmed not to touch him? Like, what? I wonder.
I don't necessarily think so, but maybe. But
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past him. I mean, at this point, we had already seen him kill Tony. He Tony tries to get his revenge for Rhodes. He kills Killmonger, ultimately kills him, and then that's when General Ross, Secretary Ross, whatever he was at this point, decides, oh, we're going to use the Patriot Act, and we're just going to take all this tech, and we're going to, basically make all these weapons and make all these these androids. I mean, if you're T'Chaka and you see Killmonger show up, he drops Claw off, like your hated enemy. He drops him off. He comes in. He talks about just having loyalty to Wakanda and happy memories of his dad talking about Wakanda. And he comes up with an idea that seems to work. He captures, they open the gates, not unlike Infinity War. They open the barrier, they let him in, they close the barrier again, and the drones all shut off. Everything he says worked. And so, I mean, he's just devious. And then, of course, he's able to turn him back on. Oh, Tony, he rigged him with something extra. Blame the dead guy, sure.
Not only that, Brent, T'Chaka must be feeling still like remorseful, guilty for what he did to Killmonger's father. So
absolutely.
That definitely plays a role. And come back here. We'll believe you. He's definitely blinded by guilt as well.
Yeah, and he loses his son and he gets his surrogate back and his nephew.
It's just rather interesting in the sense of the idea of, and it just kind of was a little laughable to me, the U.S. going to war with a nation over one death at that point. it was like, okay, we're playing a little bit of commentary on this. The MCU is not about being not commenting on real life events.
And they don't even really know about the vibranium deposits, so that would make them invade even quicker.
I want to bring, even with Tony's death, there was a little bit of callback. So you notice that bracelet on his arm, he was controlling the drone from like how we had in Avengers with the suit. So I like that little very subtle addition there. How about Killmonger's line to Tony before he dies? The difference between you and me is that you can't see the difference between you and me. Great line.
Instant classic.
Yeah. Well, it reminded me just how good the line. It's a different line, but how strong he has the line. His last line in Black Panther. Just bury me in the ocean with my ancestors that jumped from the ships because they knew death was better than bondage.
He's really good at delivering lines, and like we said before, I don't know if he has any voice acting experience, but natural comparative to other people we've heard voice their characters. I loved every second of him here, and he's a winner this time. It's not like you said, it's exact opposite of bury me. He's won. Everything he's done has worked out for him so far.
It was a lot less, in my opinion, messy in how he was able to do this. It seemed, I don't know, it just seemed a lot him playing the much longer game at that point with how early he started this and how many people he used to get in the way. You don't get, it doesn't showcase that as much in Black Panther. I mean, still a brilliant plan of what he was able to do, but this one, he really played a long game with this.
Did you guys notice that he didn't have nearly as many like dots?
Correct.
Kills?
Yep.
It was noticeable, wasn't it?
Yes.
I wasn't going, okay.
Because of where he is in the timeline.
Yeah, and he doesn't stay there, yeah.
Black Panther takes place in 2016, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, this would have been 8 years earlier than that. So that makes sense because he killed quite a few people between 2008 and 2016.
And also accounts for Shuri being as young as she is in this episode.
I will tell you that, well, I don't know for sure whether or not the mechs could actually kill him. The action scene at the end of Killmonger and the Dora, just fighting together. I thought that was a really, really fun scene to watch. I really loved seeing them team up. It was a really cool moment.
Mm-hmm.
when they were shouting T'Challa after they won the battle too.
For T'Challa, yep.
Yeah.
I did not like the way that Killmonger said Wakanda forever. Like the cadence seemed off, and I almost wonder if that was intentional. I almost wonder if it was supposed to feel weird because the whole situation was weird.
I would agree with that. I think it's supposed to feel like not natural.
Although the mother, like that endears him to her, seeing him run out on the battlefield. I thought that was just great little extra bit of Killmonger's thought process throughout this whole thing. It's not enough to bring the drones in and have them shut down. He needs to really show these people that he's one of them. And it's such a smart idea when you think about it, because they can still question, was he involved? Is he trying to infiltrate? But you see him fighting this big battle with you. It just, he was a top tier MCU villain, and we only got a couple hours with him. And here he's a top tier villain in this What If so far, and we only got 30 minutes with him. Just a great character.
Especially where, as you said earlier, when he mentions what he wants to do, and T'Chaka says, your father's felt the same, as you do. And so it sounds like he's convincing there, especially when he goes to the ancestral plane and there's T'Challa there, basically saying, was it worth it? Was it worth it all? You can't, in either your current state or when you join us on the ancestral plane, you can't escape what you did.
Yeah, and I mean, extra touching, obviously, because of Chadwick Boseman. We have one more episode with him. So one more episode of his involvement, because it was 4 episodes, right?
Correct. Yep. And then we get that Shuri's there in, I think it's basically Tony's office, revealing that they know what the truth is about Killmonger. And this is probably the first episode in a while we've been given just a little bit of hope,
Yeah, you're right. Thanos is waiting there with the Infinity Gauntlet for you to come in.
Just a little bit of hope, but then it cuts off.
Cuts
off. I would not be disappointed at all to pick up on this, even if it was next season, and see where it goes. And maybe it'll be earlier. I mean, the circle shots of all the different people from What If from the initial trailers before the show ever started, I'm pretty sure included Black Panther. So my guess is we will see Killmonger one more time this season. But this is one, if they wanted to follow this one up, I would not be disappointed at all.
Yeah, I agree. This is probably right now in my top 5. The Doctor Strange episode is still on my top 1. We've got 3 episodes left. We've got, from what I understand, we've got Gamora versus Tony. We've got Party Thor, and probably will be the last episode of the season is Infinite Ultron. And that's going to be the team up. And if you've been paying attention to some commercials out there from Hyundai, we've seen, some of this early team up at that point, including where I'm pretty much calling it out right now. The Watcher will directly interfere and join into this fight in the very final episode.
I will be shocked if he doesn't. I'm just gonna, and I haven't watched the recent trailer they put out earlier this week. I assume he's going to just gather the different heroes and chuck them together at this evil Ultron.
If I'm evil Doctor Strange, I'm like, what the hell, dude? You were looking right at me.
Not evil Doctor Strange. Not evil.
Sorry, but if I'm Doctor Strange from that episode, I'm like, what the hell, dude? You were looking right at me while everything was ending, and now you're getting involved?
He has to teach him a lesson.
I have no world.
Well, maybe that Strange will be upset about it. Maybe he won't help him out as much as the Watcher might wish he did.
Yeah. So yeah, 3 more episodes. We'll I think they've been dropping, what is it, the preview images and stuff the Tuesday, so the day before or the Monday before?
I don't know. I'd have to look.
I've been trying to go in blind lately.
Yeah. So,
well, they've been putting out like a lot of character every week. There's some character posters, and I've really enjoyed those. So we'll find out here soon.
Yeah, it's the only time I'll know. I don't mind seeing the poster. I don't watch the preview. I haven't watched that mid-season trailer at that point because, again, like this, I just kind of want to be surprised where I can. So, but all right, well, 3 more episodes left. We'll see which one we're getting, either Party Thor or Tony versus Gamora. Those are probably one of the 2 at that point. But yeah, they're saving the old Vision Ultron episode for the final. So
would make perfect sense.
Yeah, so that'll be a big team up. So, all right, so gentlemen, we have another trailer.
Yeah, of course.
Let's get into some.
Wait, so you mean they're not going to drop all their trailers on one day, so you can talk about it for one episode, and then it's not? No, oh, okay. You get them spread out just a little bit. Oh, okay, yeah. Sounds like a plan's in place here.
It might be. So this might be our last, even though there's no official word on Miss Marvel. We're all kind of assuming based on numbers and where dates are falling that probably Miss Marvel will not be coming out this year. It'll probably come out in January of next year, where WandaVision probably premiered. So this might be our last Disney Plus show for the MCU this year, which I'm fine with. You know,
they did all right. They did all right.
I'd say it's good, but yeah. So let us load up this. Let me, as always, listeners, this will be muted, and yeah. So let me just pull up my notes on this, and we'll stop at points to kind of talk about it. But one thing I want to say, starting off, this continues my theme that I've called for the MCU Phase 4 project, Phase 4 theme. Legacy is all over this and the idea, but also this is the first MCU project set around Christmas since Iron Man 3.
Yeah, and unlike that one, this one actually is coming out in the holiday time. You know, Iron Man 3 came out in May.
Yep. So all right,
when's this coming out exactly?
November 24th.
Yep.
Ooh, 2 days before my birthday. What a present!
And one day before Thanksgiving. So
well, for us anyway.
For us, yeah.
Thanksgiving's in like a month. Less than a month.
All right, so here we go. So we got our setting in New York. You know, we've got Clint with his children, and I've seen a lot of people saying, "Where's his wife?" Some people said is divorced. Some people have said no because later he's on the phone and says, "Baby." I wouldn't necessarily think you'd call your daughter baby. I think that might be his wife on the other end. So he maybe have a job in New York that he's not at home. I don't know. What do you all think about this?
I think people are reading into it a lot. Sure, maybe they're divorced. Maybe she's just not there that night. Maybe she's working or something. Maybe she just is going to come later. I don't know. I'm not going to jump to any conclusions on his marital status from one scene at a dinner table.
But now he could have revealed what he did in the 5 years that she was gone with his rolling activities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
maybe she didn't like that. But if she didn't like that, I don't know why she would let the kids go with him.
It's also true.
That's kind of a hard thing to jump on. So I think, like Brent said, maybe she's just back at home, back with her family, anything.
Mm-hmm. He's also rocking his old style hair instead of the mohawk, and
well, he got his family back, so he can get his hair back. That's how that works. Okay
now.
I like the comment in this, saying it's our first Christmas in years, and people say, "Oh, well, that makes sense. He's been the blip." But I think this is also the first Christmas in many years, even when they're around, that he's been there.
That's kind of what I thought. He's probably been working for S.H.I.E.L.D. and being sent off on missions.
Yep.
And just saw Joe Russo's daughter there, reprising her role from Endgame. I like that she's included. If you look her up, she has 2 acting credits. It's this and Avengers Endgame.
Hey, not bad call. And look at this, gentlemen. I think this show we all want to see, Rogers the Musical.
I tell you, if they don't do a Disney Plus special of that, somebody dropped the ball.
This is easily a tip of the hat to Hamilton and also Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark.
Question. I thought I heard that Chris Evans may have a little cameo in this show, and if I was going to bet money, it would be in that cast of that, but not as Captain America, but as somebody else different would be mine. Yes, I thought I read that he is a little cameo.
Maybe not one that I'm remembering. I'm remembering rumors of him just coming back in general.
Oh God, no!
But not for Hawkeye specifically.
Yeah, and I remember at one point, in comics when I was collecting back individuals, like there were some in the 1980s. There were definitely comics that had ads for a Captain America play on Broadway that never saw the light of day, but they were advertising for it. So, but walking away with his kids and. All right, so we see our first image of Kate Bishop using the the Ronin costume that Hawkeye had taken at that point. But he was also not the first to have this costume, and we'll see. I'll call out who actually was the original owner of the Ronin personality.
I can't wait to see why she put it on in the first place.
Kind of, to me, it made me wonder if she was trying to like shortcut her way into the vigilante game and like play off his reputation.
Yeah. Notice in this point he's got a earpiece at that point. In the Hawkeye series by Matt Fraction, he does suffer a massive hearing loss at this point. So I would like, since they are heavily borrowing so much from that run in this trailer alone, and they've already gone on record that they are using a lot from that limited series for the inspiration for this show. I think it's a hearing aid.
Well, he was the only normal human being with no suit or anything when Thanos dropped everything on top of them. So maybe he went to the doctor a couple weeks later and he's like, dude, that ear?
Well, to say that he doesn't have, like, you know, his ability in the sense of knowing how to target and doing that is his, and understanding at that point doing that is his. It's not a flashy ability in the sense of, like, you know, flying and things like that, but that's his ability.
Yeah, but I mean, he's basically a regular human, though.
Yes.
And he didn't have, you know, an Ant-Man helmet, an Iron Man helmet. Yep. He's not Thor. He's not Captain America. He didn't have those kind of protections and powers. So I see where he could have had, like, maybe it's something else, but like if they tell us he lost his hearing in that battle, I wouldn't be surprised.
So we get our introduction to what is known, at least in the Matt Fraction run, as the Tracksuit Boys, and who say bro after everything they say. Legitimately, they say bro, and I cannot wait and hope that they have worked that into the script.
It can't be more annoying than the mutant gang from The Dark Knight. There's nothing more annoying than their dialogue.
Yep. So this is where he unmasks her, and it's Haley Steinfeld as our Kate Bishop, and she says, "You're Hawkeye." Can
I point out the Marvel Studios logo with the bullseye behind it?
Yep.
I love the way that looked. That was really cool.
So, like I said, I've been called by the world's greatest archer, and he goes, "Was one of those people you?" So yeah, this is where he's on the phone saying, "Babe, I'll be back." I personally think he's on the phone with his wife.
I love this little catch of the Molotov cocktail.
Yeah, trying to do swinging down, not being as successful with that.
Well, we get a scene a little later where that tree is completely dying, so I'm assuming he went through it and knocked it all down.
Kate trying to be graceful about it. This is where we first see her in her kind of quote unquote comic accurate costume from, you know, Marvel Comics at that point. This holiday season. Okay, we get the first look at what is her name? The actress.
That's Kate's mom.
It is Kate's mom.
Yeah.
Someone look it up for me at that point. But she is, that's Kate's mom. I think
Vera Farmiga.
Vera Farmiga, yes, playing Kate Bishop's mother. I want to say that she may be not all good. Maybe a mafia kind of running stuff at that point. Could be. Kate comes from money. Kate comes from a lot of money. So because when they're walking to the party, okay, we just gotta look at this. Rogers the musical, everyone.
Oh my.
Yeah, and this is where S-Bubs had said basically that someone thought maybe Thor here was Chris Evans. But I don't know. Maybe Chris Evans is in it. Maybe he's not. I don't know.
Yeah. We get our first appearance of Lucky the dog, who is also in the Hawkeye series at that point. Just I'm glad they're putting him in there. So yeah, they're marching through, you know, this is a Renaissance fair, so God knows what they're doing there, fighting all these people. You know, they're walking through together to what we saw before that, Hawkeye, Clint getting shot at this party. Love this scene. I love that hero shot.
Yes.
That is a very, very cool hero shot.
Is he wearing his
All right.
purple there as well? Hawkeye's
go back.
wearing his suit. It kind of looks like he is.
Kind of looks like.
Yeah,
That's the
looks
first
like
time. That's the first time I've seen it in any sort of get up like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the whole trailer. So that's pretty. I was wondering if we'd ever see him wearing that.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us introduce to you Maya Lopez, also known as Echo. This is our first look, very quick look at Echo. Echo in the comics is the first one to have the Ronin persona, and so maybe Hawkeye stole it from Maya Lopez and took it out. And this is where we might be hearing lots of rumors, even though Mr. D'Onofrio is trying to dispel them finally at that point, saying, like, don't read into too much of my quotes, and we'll say sure, Jan, on that one, and hope that we get it. But Maya Lopez was trained by Wilson Fisk to utilize her abilities, and that she possesses a photographic reflexes very similar to Taskmaster, that she is capable of perfectly duplicating any physical movement. But she is also deaf, and the actress that plays her is deaf as well.
Do you think that do you think she got snapped, and when she was snapped, he took over the persona, and when she came back, she was like, "What?
Could
Ronan's been active for 5 years. I haven't been active for 5 years."
Yeah, very much could be. And Maya Lopez in the comics is also a very big, that's now an even bigger part, because now she is in possession of the Phoenix Force in the comics. So
we're not seeing that force for a while.
No, not for this. No. So we get a very cool car chase, also part of Fraction's run. I love this whole banter back and forth. Not this one, not that arrow. That's too dangerous.
And the arrow that blows up the van chasing them, that's the safe one.
Yep, that's the safe one. And there we go. Hawkeye everywhere, November 24th. I think we'll probably get maybe one more trailer for this. But if we don't, I'm good with this. That's all they really need.
Yep, totally agree.
Sold me. And don't undercut the Christmas sign they had with the upbeat. Yep. That got me. First of all, that made me think, and I had to check my list for who I need to buy Christmas gifts for. Like, that got me right in the Christmas spirit.
It does. It's the perfect time to drop it. You know, it's the day before American Thanksgiving at that point. Brent and I have already discussed the idea of if we're keeping our show for that night or that. I think right now, Brent, we're still gonna do it on Thursday night, Thanksgiving night.
Well, we'll have to see. It'll just depend on what's going on. We'll decide when we get a little closer to it.
Yeah.
But
we will, international listeners.
We will absolutely figure out a time to talk about this.
It will be that week. Rest assured, it will be that week. So
yeah.
But one thing we didn't see, and I didn't expect to see any hints of, no Yelena, who we know is in this show. Not surprised. And also
the cast list too.
What's that?
When they removed her from, I want to say, the cast list, maybe on the trailer. They removed, she's not on the cast list for something.
Gotcha.
The article did come up. So.
And there was also strong hints of Miss Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Valentina also being a cast member of this as a small cameo. So we'll see if that ends up being true.
Don't go to Florence
we know Yelena.
Instagram, because she has pictures of Haley Steinfeld saying, "Can't wait to see you guys," or "See you guys around." So.
Yeah. I mean, we know she's in it. It's all right.
Yeah. It's all good. So the van also says, as Buff said, trust a bro. Yep, there we go. In inspiration for this, Brent and I were very excited and talking about this offline at that point that listeners, know we have even started our new comic book club, but Brent and I are going to pull an audible after we finish One Moment in Time. Brent, which one are we going to cover? Usually we do a listeners one, but listeners, we're going to pull an audible on this one because it's too hard not to do this one. What are we going to be covering after One Moment in Time?
I mean, how do we not do the Matt Fraction David Aja run of Hawkeye? I was going to read. I've only read part of it. I don't think I ever actually finished it. I don't even remember why, to be perfectly honest. I was going to go through it anyway. Then we started talking about it, kind of like I was going to read One Moment in Time. Two birds. Read it for myself. Read it for the show. That's fine with me.
Yeah. So, listeners, we will give you back the choice after Fractions Run. I hope you will forgive us for this one, but it is one that we'll probably, I think if we did our math right, some of it will cross over when Hawkeye debuts. I think we're looking, it's 22 issues. We'll probably be doing 2 issues a week at that point. So there may be a little crossover at the beginning, but it'll be very cool to, as we get into the show, having already covered it, to see how many callbacks they do.
So. Absolutely.
Well, you can see so many just in the trailer. And I love that run. Fun fact, listeners, I wrote Chris like a week ago asking, do anybody World's Finest True Believers have this picked out yet? Are you trying to line up a release? And I got a little watch Marvel Alliance next week. We'll let you guys know. So
we'll let you know. But yeah, so Travis, are you gonna stick with us Thursday, or are you gonna bow out for some sleep?
We're almost at midnight here now where I'm too, so I'm gonna bow out. It was so much fun. And if I did the slick reading, maybe I would have stayed, but sorry. Thanks for having me, guys. And you'll definitely see me next week for the next What If episode.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks,
good night, Travis.
Night. All right. So before we head on and catch up on some of the chat for Hawkeye, we're going to take our second ad break. So listeners, again, these ads keep the lights on at Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. So I'm going to give you that 3 count to turn that volume down before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right. So, what were some of the comments in the chat? I know S-Bubs has been.
I think we covered them. The thing about Chris Evans and possibly in the Thor Rogers playing Thor in the Rogers musical, probably not, but maybe. He mentioned the same thing we were talking about with the hearing loss due to Avengers Campus when that got bombed, and then pointed out the van saying "Trust a bro."
Yep. Gotcha. I like what he said. Die Hawk.
Die Hawk. Yeah. That's
nice. Very, very, very clever. So. All right, so let's get into some of the quick hits on the news this week. This one, looking at the entitled "Shang-Chi Effect," Eternals and 4 other Disney films will have minimum 45-day window, and Encanto with 30. So basically, listeners, because of how successful Disney has seen how Shang-Chi has done so far, they have basically said, with the exception of, Encanto, in the sense of when that premieres, that is officially said when that's premiering on Disney Plus after, what was it, a 30-day window?
Yeah, after 30 days, Encanto will be going straight to Disney Plus. I actually think Encanto might be premiering the same day in theaters, the same day Hawkeye is. I need to double check that. On that Wednesday, but the other 5 movies are all 45-day exclusive theatrical runs. And I know a lot of people are like, and I kind of was at first too, I had a very similar reaction of like, oh, I talked about this on Fans, but I didn't realize this part. Are they jumping the gun? Are they going too fast? Why are they full on the next 6 movies? Well, 4 of them were Fox holdovers. They didn't have a choice. They had to be theatrical only. And the last remaining fills out of a 45-day window. But again, kind of like you pointed out last week, Brent, the only one they have called out going straight to Disney Plus after that one's 30 days is going to Disney Plus and Encanto. The rest of them, they just said it'll VOD, all that stuff. It never has said Disney Plus. So it might be in Disney Plus. I'm still hoping Shang-Chi does go Disney Plus after 45 days. I'm not really expecting it. For the reason why those have to go theatrical only, the license for a lot of the Fox properties for the pay one window, which is basically you have theatrical window, the traditional home release window of Blu-ray and digital on-demand sales like iTunes, and then you have your pay one window for the streaming networks or for the television distribution rights. HBO has those for all the Fox properties. That's why after when New Mutants finally went to streaming, it went to HBO Max. Sure, eventually it'll be on Disney Plus, but it went to HBO Max. Free Guy is going to HBO Max. These are going to HBO Max. So we have Encanto going to Disney Plus. S-Bub says on Christmas Day. I read on Christmas Eve, but either way, same idea in that timeline. And then I'd have to go back to the Disney press release. I think it did say Christmas Eve.
The 45 days before whatever, it's going somewhere else at that point. Like Brent said, these are Fox. Most of these are Fox properties outside of Eternals. So you've got The Last Duel, that's with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon and who's that guy that played Kylo? I don't know. I might have forgotten. My former co-host would know that name.
He would, but he didn't like that guy very much, so we can just move on.
I think he liked him very much, very, very much. What was his name again?
Oh, Adam Driver.
Adam Driver, yes. And so yes, that's coming out. Debate debuts October 15th, October 22nd. Ron's Gone Wrong, November 5th, Eternals, December 10th, West Side Story, and December 22nd, The King's Man. So this right now, Premiere Access is no more basically this year, at least as we stand right now.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I bet it is completely gone for this year. Them announcing 45-day exclusives, they probably have deals with the exhibitors, with Regal and AMC. But regardless, you kind of get where some of the confidence is coming from. Look at how Shang-Chi's been doing. Black Widow and Fast 9 both had about 67% drops for that second week.
Mm-hmm.
Shang-Chi was 54%, much improved, much more in line with pre-pandemic numbers. Obviously, you can't directly compare pre-pandemic to mid-pandemic numbers. We're not post yet, but that's a 54%. That's a good solid drop. It's not the best, but it's pretty good. It did 34 million. If you're tracking it, Shang-Chi worldwide is up to 264. So it's holding on, it's doing strong, and it still has a couple more weeks of no competition in front of it.
Yeah, and again, we understand and we agree, selfishly, yes, we would love Premiere Access for at least, our remaining MCU movies at that point. And again, yes, we know, and they're not of illusions that they can make more money in the sense of more of instead of splitting it more with the theaters and other middlemen at that point going to theaters, they control a lot more of that profit on Disney Plus. Again, as I said at the Shang-Chi review, it's the big idea of torrenting. I think that is the biggest issue of why they're not doing it.
I mean, torrenting is absolutely a huge factor. It absolutely is. You get that HD copy, that high quality 4K copy day one. That makes
it's out difference. There. Yeah, it's already out there. So, but yeah, so we'll, again, we were all shocked when they put this out before the second weekend came out. They could have waited. I don't think it would have changed their mind. Obviously, they already were confident in the second weekend numbers weren't going to change their mind about this. But again, I don't think it would have made a big deal if they waited until Monday morning to put this out there. But whatever. What do I know? I'm not running the company.
Well, no, you're not. No, maybe you should. Maybe you should look into it.
No, I'll do that. I'll see if Chapek wants to step down at that point. All right, our next news story, a small one, but an interesting one. Disney reveals 4 new release dates for MCU movies coming out in 2024. So they announced 4 dates, not saying where they're tied to, but the dates say to us, knowing where Phase 4 ends in 2023, these are Phase 5 projects more than likely. So we've got February 16th, 2024, May 3rd, 2024, July 26th, 2024, and November 8th, 2024. So we can have theories. So this will be the beginning of Phase 5. You put a very interesting kind of breakdown of films that, where we're at this point.
Yeah, I mean, just if you look at how many movies there are, the MCU is giving us something like 15 movies in the next 3 years, which is insane. Plus, the Sony Spider-Man universe movies. We got Venom in just 2 weeks from tonight. We'll be watching it, and then Morbius is scheduled for a couple months later.
Maybe.
Well, it's currently scheduled.
they keep pushing that movie further and further.
I mean, Morbius is still scheduled for January 21st. Yep. They haven't pushed it again yet, and they got time before they would need to. But I still think they're hiding Venom behind Bond. But regardless, we have 6 untitled movies. I wanted to ask you, do you have any guesses as to what these 6 are going to be? I think I know 4 of them. But
you think you know 4 of them? I would like to. I think one of these is going to be X-Men. I think this is in the first part of Phase 5. They will have X-Men in there. Okay. I think it would be the latest one. I would say, if anything, it would be the November.
Well, I was looking at the movies that we already know are coming, but don't have dates. We know Blade is coming, right?
Yes.
We know the Fantastic Four is coming. We know Captain America 4 is coming. And then, of course, Deadpool. So I think that's 4 of them.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the ones we know are coming. You're right. So even though I want X-Men that badly, you're right. I think that may be pushed out. Knowing what we know, you're right. Blade definitely is going to fit in there. That probably What would you put? Where do you think will fit in Blade? Would it be the February date or the?
I like the October 2024 date.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, but that's just interesting about how long that production is going to be.
Actually, I think that's October 2023. My mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Copied that in wrong.
Gotcha. So yeah, Deadpool and yeah,
Shang-Chi too, probably. I think they're going to do another Shang-Chi movie. And then of course there's X-Men, maybe another Spider-Man movie by around 20. I mean, the way they've been releasing, or at least trying to release the Spider-Man movies, they'd be due for another one that's part of the MCU if that deal's going to get extended. Now, that'd be a Sony distribution, that'd be a Sony announcing it. Could be Marvel just holding the date for them though.
Yeah. And yeah, the more I think about it, I think the fact that we haven't even heard any rumblings of the X-Men, I think that's a 2025 project. So the middle.
I know feels so far away, but we still have so many other things that I really think it's okay.
Hey, no, again, it's going to happen. I'm not worried it's not going to happen. It's just the idea that at some point I just will bask in the glory of when it finally does happen.
Absolutely.
So, and maybe a Ghost Rider project sometime in there, maybe.
I wouldn't turn it down. Turn it down.
So then our last story, and it's a pretty big one because for the first time, the MCU is up for Emmys, and right now it has won its first Emmys, 3 Emmys. These are coming from the creative arts Emmys. The primetime Emmys go this Sunday at that point, and we know both WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier do have nominations, and their WandaVision taking the most. But WandaVision officially won the Marvel Studios' first ever Emmy Awards. Mark Washington, Sharon Davis, and Kathy Orlando took the award for Outstanding Production Design for Narrative Program Half Hour for WandaVision. WandaVision also scored its second win that night with Outstanding Fantasy / Sci-Fi Costumes, beating The Handmaid's Tale, Lovecraft Country, The Mandalorian, and The Umbrella Academy. That winning team includes Mayes Rubeo, Joseph Feltis, Daniel Salone, and Virginia Burton. And the big one I think a lot of us were celebrating was that they also won Outstanding Original Music and Lyrics for Agatha All Along, written by Kristen Anderson Lopez and Robert Lopez, and performed by Agatha Harkness's Catherine Hahn. That one I took particular joy in. It was just when I saw that come across my timeline, I was like, oh, that's awesome. But 3 wins in this. I mean, again, it's just it's just good for seeing them being recognized even right now, even though the primetime Emmys haven't happened yet. At the very least, the MCU is getting some good notice and getting some creative nods of what they were able to accomplish for the very first Disney Plus show. So
yeah, I think it's good for the people to get that recognition, to get it's a feather in their cap, of course. This is the event for television awards. I mean, this is the one. So it's your movie version of the Oscars, right? So I don't typically follow the Emmys that closely, but when I see a project I like is getting success there, I'm happy to see it because I'm glad for those people who made that project. So I was happy to see WandaVision get some wins. Queen's Gambit got some wins. Ted Lasso won a couple. I enjoyed those things because I thought they were all very deserving properties.
Oh, yeah. So we'll have to see Sunday, what Sunday night holds for WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Maybe Don Cheadle can take that for the 96 plus seconds he was on screen. Will he win the best guest star?
I looked at that a little more. It's not the same as the guest star. Like technically it's not. It's a different category. Like guest appearance and they're different categories.
Correct.
So when all of us, myself included, were like, "How is you have him?" But we had this amazing performance of Isaiah Bradley, and that doesn't make it in. It's like, no, they're different categories. I mean,
you're right.
So it's a little weird because it's still debatable on did he even do enough for that, but. Comparing him to Isaiah Bradley it's just not a fair comparison.
Yeah, exactly. But All right, so that is the news this week. So let's get into some listener feedback at that point as I pull in our fact or fictions when we get to that. So what were some of our questions from our listeners when you put out the call?
Well, we got a couple here from Tim Rooney. He says, on a scale between a tumbleweed or full nuclear annihilation, how would you react to Robert Downey Jr. joining the DCU? He would prefer as Ted Cord. I mean, whatever. I think Twitter would be a goldmine that week. It would be awfully funny to see the meltdown that would absolutely happen. Where am I on that? I mean, I guess I'm closer to tumbleweed. If he was going to come back to comic book televisions, I'd rather he came back to the MCU. But sure, spread the love. Let the DCEU have him.
Yeah, what will actually happen? Yes, what will happen is full nuclear annihilation. But me on that point, I'll be like, I'm excited. I've been a Robert Downey Jr. fan since the very first movie I saw him in was Chaplin. And so I'm a big fan. So if he wants to cross the aisle, I don't care. He's a great actor. He's gonna bring his A game to whatever he does at that point. And yeah, sure, Ted Cord, let's go. Why not?
As Bubs, RDJ is Thomas Wayne in the Batman.
Sure, it'll be interesting to see if he can play sullen. I don't know how RDJ plays some sullen, some anger at that point. It'll be interesting.
So next question from Brock. Should Iron Fist be in the next Shang-Chi movie? And then I was going to ask him, but Travis beat me to it. Basically, the same Iron Fist or a different one. And what it boils down to is Brock said if the rumors are true of Finn Jones being really lazy about the fights, which at this point we pretty much know they are true, he would prefer recast. Otherwise, he was fine with them. What do you think? One, should we see Shang-Chi? And two, or see him in Shang-Chi? And two, recast or not?
Yes, we definitely should see Shang-Chi and Shang-Chi too. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Might as well put him in.
Might as well put him in. With Iron Fist, no. If anything, yeah, we could maybe bring in Kung Lao at that point, the Hidden City, but I don't think we need to bring in Iron Fist. I think that Iron Fist can be brought in somewhere else, but I'm fine bringing in the Lost City of Kung Lao, but I don't want Iron Fist and Shang-Chi too.
Yeah,
I just don't.
I don't think I wouldn't call them necessary. I wouldn't go so far as to say I don't want it to happen either. I would be interested. I'd be very interested in it. And yeah, if Kunlun wanted to be one of like the mystical cities like Talal was, then great. That'd be totally fine. It would fit. I feel like that would maybe connect these two characters in a way that they aren't really connected in the comics, but I'd be interested in that regardless. And if they wanted to bring Iron Fist in, seeing what they could do with an actor who is willing to put in the work that the way Simu Liu did, for example, that would be pretty fun. That would be very interesting to see. But I'm not going to go so far as to say it should happen. I would just be open to it and I'd be interested if it did.
Yeah. If it's done right, I just worry when you bring in someone like the character itself of Iron Fist. I just don't want Shang-Chi to be overshadowed in his own movie.
Honestly, when's the last time that really happened? Like everyone has that concern. It's like I don't know the last movie where I feel like someone was overshadowed that way.
Well, to the point of how high this movie has gotten to the point of at that point, you're right. It wouldn't basically. He's gotten to the point. The character's gotten to a point in just one movie that it'll just be cool, a new character we'll look at more later.
I mean, we would get an awesome fight scene between the two of them. Just the Iron Fist is in the power versus the 10 rings. That'd be a lot of fun. As Bob says, the last time that happened was Florence Pugh in Black Widow. I would disagree. I would maybe say she was Scarlett Johansson's equal. I don't think she overpowered her.
Yeah. I just think they're two different characters at that point. I think if I think he's more saying like who was kind of still the show in the sense of who we remember more for performance wise. Yeah. I think Florence Pugh definitely was the bigger standout in it.
She stole some scenes.
Yeah.
I'll give her that. She stole some scenes. That family dinner scene was a massive highlight for her. But I really don't think she overpowered Scarlett Johansson's Natasha.
Gotcha. All right, so let me pull up the fact or fictions from you last week. So, number one, there will be Marvel Studios Legends episode on Disney Plus related to Spider-Man. 86% said fact, 14% said fiction. Number 2, Venom will be a playable character at some point in Spider-Man 2 video game by Insomniac Games for PS5. 75% said fact, 25% said fiction. And number 3, Flash from Spider-Man MCU movies will become Agent Venom in the future. This one was a hard no. 17% said fact, 83% said fiction. And the bonus, Spider-Man No Way Home, December 17th, will win its second weekend versus The Matrix Resurrections, which releases December 22nd, if both movies keep their release dates. 81% said fact, 19% said fiction.
Yep. Sounds about right.
Yep. All right. So
what do you have for us?
My turn this week. Let me scroll up. Let's see there. There we are. All right. So first one, we will not see another MCU movie premiere in theaters and Disney Plus premiere access on the same day within the next 3 years.
So no more premiere access for Marvel movies in the next 3 years.
For the next 3 years.
Fact. It's not what my heart wants, but I'm going fact.
Just in the sense of me, this knowing what we do have coming down, I think I'm not saying it's never coming back. That's why I just put kind of 3 years. It could happen later, but yeah, I'm fact as well. Within the next 3 years, an MCU Disney Plus show will win a Primetime Emmy.
You mean like WandaVision just did?
No, that was a Creative Arts Emmy. They do distinguish between the two.
Well, then yes, within the next 3 years, and I think it's really like within the next 3 days. But
so if it does happen this weekend, which one do they take home?
I'm not willing to make a comment there because I'd have to look back at some of the categories because some of those categories are stacked.
Oh, the actors category is very stacked, but she is probably, if she's some people's favorite, but if not, she's a runner-up.
It's a stacked category, so I think they're going to get one. I think they'll get at least one that night. Watch it be Falcon and Winter Soldier. Which I'm sorry, I really love the show, but I think WandaVision probably deserves it more.
I think so. You're right. Again, I'm just putting it out there in the sense of everyone might just say fact at that point after they find it. See, you were right. I was right. And within
but 3 years, yes, I think that'll happen.
It just shows the quality. Like the very first show, how much of that was talked about, how much it dealt with, and how well. I mean, how many Emmy nominations did it have? Just right out of the gate. All right, my last one. We will see a concept story or character from What If make a leap to the big screen, and we'll have an entire movie focused on them. Now, I know Travis Snell had put out there that Captain Carter would come into, we would see her, but it just was coming into the theaters, wasn't anything built around it. So I'm taking that to the next level, that either the character, concept, or story, we will see an entire movie about that stemming from What If.
It's interesting timing with those Marvel zombie rumors that are floating around. How long? 3 years?
Yep. Yeah, we'll go 3 years. I didn't say it, but yeah, we'll stick with the 3.
So if it's 3 years,
no, because we already know too much about it. So
yeah,
we'll just say I'm just gonna say in general at this point.
In general, I will say fact.
Mm-hmm. What do you think would you think any of them, like even, I know Mark Miller put out that statement at that point and people pointed out, well, he was right about one thing at that point. So he might have a point. Well, he might. Do you think it's zombies or do you think it's something else? Do you think it's Captain Carter?
I think I would bet Captain Carter before that. I could also see this as a way to bring back Michael B. Jordan. I could see it as a way to bring him back, have him play Black Panther without playing T'Challa, and maybe he goes through a change of heart, or maybe he goes on a hero's journey and becomes a hero. But eventually, yes, like one of these, I think they're going to say we really have something here. Let's play with it in live action.
Yeah, S. Bub's referring back to the Premier Access one, I would say fact, but you never know what the world can happen in a span of 2 months. You're exactly right.
Fair.
And then for this one, if this is talked about ever, then yes. If 3 years, yeah. I'm not going to put years on it because we already know too much of what's happening already in 3 years, and there's not enough room to sneak in that date to make it worthwhile. All right, so I will post those Sunday afternoon. So make sure you check those out on Twitter and vote away and see where you stand. All right, let's get to Comic Book Corner, our new comic book club. It's been a long night. Comic book club. One moment in time, we begin the 4-issue arc of Amazing Spider-Man, starting with issue number 638. When I opened it up this afternoon to read through it, I was like, "Oh God, 45 pages. This might take a while." It didn't take me that long.
It's a quick read, yeah. But I kind of had a similar reaction. It's like I got a few minutes. It should be enough time to crank out this issue.
Yeah, 20 pages. Nope, not so much.
But it didn't feel like 45 pages, and I mean that as a compliment. Like it flowed well. One thing I did have to get used to, and this might be my only real hang up, and that's probably even reaching, was just for the stories set in the past of why Peter and MJ didn't get married, they used a very old art style to make it look like it was a comic. And so that kind of threw me a little bit, but I appreciated it because they were telling a story from the past. So they made it look like, 80s, early 90s comic books. And unexpected, I had forgotten that they'd done that. I haven't read this story since it released, but it was a pretty cool touch. I thought it was well done with the art.
Yeah, I liked it. The 3 different art styles at that point, it could be jarring. I'll go on record right now. I'm not a fan of Quesada's art in this series right now. Like at least with this one issue, I think, I don't know. It's
not his best work.
No, it is not. I like his work in some places. This issue right here, I'll reserve judgment as a whole. But right now, this issue, I was not a fan of his art and his drawing of Peter and Mary Jane.
I have always thought that his faces suffer.
Yes, that's exactly, yeah.
But his Spider-Man with the mask on, I think looks fine.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I enjoyed the separate art style. That was a nice little touch. The 2 different ones and looking at how they used it, I thought worked. It was jarring, but it worked for what it was. I like how, in the sense of how fast paced it was, in the sense of it didn't overuse a lot of words on the page. It was very straight into the point. We kind of get the stage very much set with, looking at what happened that day in the marriage, and all brought up by Peter asking, "Do you have regrets of not getting married?" And Mary Jane at this point is like, maybe not regrets,
More like just what ifs.
Yeah.
I will say, like the criminal, the thug that Spider-Man was sort of chasing / fighting. I realized it was more circumstance that brought Spider-Man down. I thought that was a little weak, though. I was like, I felt like his spider sense should have done a little bit better there for him.
And I do like how it opens, and though you and I very much have the same opinion of, that lovely, horrible story. One More Day. We finally get the revelation of what Mary Jane said to Mephisto, because in One More Day, we don't see it. We don't hear, we don't read it. So we exactly see what she promised Mephisto, to make the deal with the devil. So you were, so we get an idea of that. But what did you feel about Peter struggling with even questioning whether Mary Jane's the right one?
I think that fits because he's always there's a part of him who's always going to be hung up on Gwen. And the way that ended, and it's not like it ended at a point where like they hated each other, they couldn't get along, they were just, they didn't split amicably. He never had closure. He was at the height of his love for her when she was murdered, and so he never and there have been other comics that have talked about this, especially tied to his relationship with Mary Jane. There's a part of him that is always going to be attached to Gwen. So I think the night before he gets married, I understand, to me, it rings very true, having those kind of doubts when he has this impossible love that he's never been able to properly move past.
Exactly. And I'll plug, my show, World's Finest True Believers, because Ryan Lauer and I covered Spider-Man Blue, which kind of really deals with how strong that love he had for Gwen, and dealing with that. It's definitely a very emotional story by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. Especially with the idea of Mary Jane being the partier, the social butterfly. You see it in the bachelorette party and how Peter is not that much. And it's almost in the sense of like, these are really two polar opposite people in the sense of personalities. But it's almost as like, does Peter think at that point, does he even deserve, is he worthy of Mary Jane, or is he always going to be the one standing behind her?
Yeah, the bachelor and bachelorette parties are such a striking difference. Like his was Flash and Harry, and that was it.
Yep.
Whereas she was full on like clubbing, and they even talked about like after Peter leaves, Harry's like, "Was that the worst bachelor party ever?" Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Yes, it was. But I think it sets up exactly what the series is going to be looking at within 4 issues. Like I said, it's been, I don't even know. I've read this issue. I don't know about the forthcoming issues I've ever read. So, but yeah, I think it was a good first outing, looking at what we're going to be dealing with. And, obviously we know the marriage doesn't happen. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of breaks up and the effects of it reverberates with Mephisto's deal.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So
I'm looking forward to reading the next one.
Yeah. So, so next week, Amazing Spider-Man issue 639. So check that out. And so volume 68. We're getting close to that 70. So we'll see what happens next week. We will see which episode of What If drops and whatever news and surprises come our way. So Brent, how can they follow you?
Brent Tech Prime on Twitter, the other podcast I'm a part of, Fans Without Borders. We just a couple days ago put out our Shang-Chi review, so go give that a listen.
Definitely give that a listen. And you can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balga. You can follow this podcast on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask Factor Fictions questions, message us, tell us how crazy we are at that point. We can take it all. Our DMs are open. And continue to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts, wherever podcast your choice may be. Again, we want to thank our sponsor, organicpricebooks.com. Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout for $2 off every single order. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Those of you live in the chat, we appreciate that. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, Brent, we talked about something that we had a very good week, and you and I were very excited about earlier. It was Tuesday, I believe. We got Apple doing their big reveals of some hardware.
Yeah, their California streaming event is what they called it. The event had more devices than I thought it will. First of all, the new base model iPad, a great little iPad, not for me personally. Was not expecting it at this event. That iPad mini, I don't really have a place where it fits in my life, but it's tempting. If I had the bigger iPad Pro, the larger, the 12.9, where it's effectively a desktop machine, I would probably also want one of those minis, but that's really expensive. So I just have the smaller iPad Pro from a few years ago. The same size screen that you have on your iPad.
Yep.
And that works for me in the best of both worlds. But it's a pretty slick looking little device. I like the way they put the Touch ID in the finger or in the power button there.
Yeah, it's been good. I upgraded to a newer version of the iPad Air this summer, but the idea that those are the two they upgraded in this conference, especially putting the amount of hardware in it, they've definitely made that worth people's time to kind of pause and say, wow, okay, so you made the affordable one boost that power, still affordable, and then for those of you that want a smaller one that really much fits in your hands, iPhone 13. I've already got my upgrade already locked for tomorrow morning. So all it's got to do is hit that order button and I'm good to go. So which one are you going with? I know you're going with a Pro Max, but what color, buddy?
We're going. A friend of mine and I, we decided we did the same phone this year. We're doing the same phone coming up. We're going with the gold 256 Pro Max. So
Okay.
Mix it up. I've never had the gold color. And honestly, I have a case, so the only part of my phone I ever even see is around the camera. I don't care what the color is. I was joking when I get mine through work, and so I was joking, is like, when we place our orders, is there a first available color? Because I truly don't care. All four colors, I like them all. Sure, I've never had gold. I've had the silvers. I've had the blacks. I've got a blue phone right now. Let's go gold.
Yeah, I'm going with the Sierra Blue. It's being a graduate of UNC Chapel Hill twice over. It's close enough to that. I'll be rocking that color.
My wife is getting that color, which I was glad she chose that one, because I'm going to get to see it, because I do want to see it in person, because I think it looks good. And I maybe would have leaned towards that one if we didn't decide to go gold, but it's good for me. They also did an Apple Watch. I'm currently rocking the Series 4 watch from a few years ago. As are you. What are you thinking? Are you gonna pull the trigger on Series 7?
Yeah, I've been waiting. The last couple of iterations, 5 and 6, just really, in my opinion, were just disappointing. It for me, in the sense, it just didn't offer much outside of, like, software upgrades that I was already going to get. So, but seeing that they're using more of the screen space, the idea that bringing a little bit of the keyboard was interesting. I thought that was an interesting idea. Just some of the additions that they're doing with it. This was probably their most significant upgrade they've done with the watch in a while. So yeah, we have no date on it, nor do we have. Do they even put prices on it yet?
I mean, they did. It's going to start at $400 for the smaller size, $450 for the bigger one. But there's like a big chip shortage right now, like the processor, and so that's part of why I guess I'm not set in stone. But when it comes out and it's available for pre-orders, I'm probably going to go ahead and hit that button. My 4, it's getting a little long in the teeth. It's fine. I'm with you. The 5, the 6, neither of them did. I have this reputation as like always getting the newest Apple product. Like with my phone, that's very true. My iPad's a 2018. This new base model iPad they put out, its processor is actually newer than mine, and it's at multi-core stuff that takes multiple processors. Mine would still win, but the single just basic that, like your web browsing and stuff, is going to be faster than mine is. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. But my watch is a Series 4 with Series 7 is coming out. I have a 2018 iPad, and where it's next, or in November, that iPad will be 3 years old. It's just my phone that I do it with, but I think it's time for the watch as well.
Yeah, I'll see when exactly, but my guess is November. I think we won't get a release date until November.
That might be when it actually happens. I think we'll find out earlier, because I think there's going to be an October of it.
Yeah, we'll find out earlier, but I think it won't release until November.
They're going to do some new Macs in October, which, as I just said, I don't buy the latest all the time. I am probably updating my Mac Mini when it comes out, when they come out with a new one, rumored to be this fall. But that computer will be designed to last a few years. So we'll see. But it's always expensive. It's always fun. And it's Apple time.
Yep, it's Apple time. So, but yeah, if you're interested in the phone, that drops tomorrow morning at 5 Pacific, so 8 a.m. for me. So just hit that, finalize your pre-order, and part of that upgrade program. So all I have to do is finish paying off one more month that I owe at that point, because Apple can't decide on a release date to save their life. So it's later. So because it was later last year, I've got one more thing I had to pay off. So, oh well.
Yep. Makes sense. My wife's doing that, and hers is paid off though, because she has an 11 and she didn't want to do it.
Gotcha.
But hers actually is paid off completely.
Oh wow. So, okay. Nice. Yep. But all right. Well, a little bit of tech talk for the not TikTok, tech talk at the end of this. But again, thank you all for sticking around listening. Happy Apple Day. Good luck to y'all buying some stuff tomorrow at that point. And again, Excelsior, true believers.
See you later.